Hey folks, Labruski here back in a new Comics Corner. I hope everyone is doing well. Today's book that we are going to be talking about is Batman Hush, written by Jeph Loeb and artwork done by Jim Lee. But before we do that, if you could please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. It helps out the channel a whole bunch. And if you have read this book and you have opinions and thoughts on it, please let me know what they are down in the comment section below. I feel like you either love or you hate this book. You kind of fall into two camps. I fall into the love it camp. This is probably my favorite Batman book, to be honest with you, and we'll dive into those reasons why. I don't think it's a perfect book at all. I just personally love it. So, yeah, that is what we are going to be talking about today. So, kind of a quick story synopsis. This book starts out with Batman hunting down Killer Croc, who kidnapped, I think it's a senator's child, some important person's kid, Killer Croc kidnapped. So Batman is on the hunt for Killer Croc. And, that unfolds within the first issue. And then we learn that there is this mysterious stalker who seems to be out to ruin Batman's life. Not only Batman's life, but also Bruce Wayne's. And so Batman has to try to figure out who the heck, first off, kidnapped this kid and who is trying to sabotage Batman's life and Bruce Wayne's life and why. And one of the reasons why I love this book so much is the amount of Batman characters that are in it. We have a lot of the Rogues Galleries. We have a lot of the Bat family. Catwoman is in this book as well, which is Jim Lee does an amazing job drawing her for various reasons. Um, but yeah, so there's a huge cast of characters. Huntress is in this book as well, who I'm not too familiar with Huntress, but I did enjoy her in this book. And yeah, it's a kind of a simple detective story of Batman just trying to figure out who this mysterious stalker is. So the characters, let's quickly kind of just go down the list and list off who appears in this book. So obviously we have Batman, Bruce Wayne, main character, right? We have Catwoman, Tim Drake as Robin, Alfred, a lot of the other Bat family, Huntress, Oracle, Nightwing, and then we also have some of the Rogues Galleries. We have Poison Ivy, Joker, Harley Quinn, Clayface, Scarecrow, Hush now. We have Superman who makes an appearance. So this comic book is just chock full of so many great DC characters. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. So let's dive into the good, why I love this book. Now, starting off with the obvious, I will say the reason that I revisit this book really is because of the artwork done by Jim Lee. That is where the book shines the most, in my opinion. I do own it in absolute formats, so I would encourage you, if you're able to find a good deal. I believe it's out of print, but I think there is a reprint on the way. I believe it is just spectacular seeing this artwork in oversized formats. Obviously, I do own the trade. That's how I read it originally, and it does read just as well. The artwork is just as beautiful in that, and that's obviously that's the cheaper alternative to the Absolute. Now they do have like a DC compact edition, I think, which I would say maybe shy away from. Obviously, that's the cheapest one though. So if you're like, I just want to read the story, cash, I just don't have the money to buy the trade, definitely go with that. Just read the story and, you appreciate the artwork. Just the way Jim Lee draws these characters is so spectacular. It's some of my favorite artwork in comics ever. There's so many amazing pages and splash pages, double splash pages in this book that really are just some of my favorites. My desktop wallpaper is the Bat family on the Gotham skyline with, we have Superman, Jim Gordon in there as well, and Huntress. One of my favorite pieces of artwork ever. I absolutely love that. So obviously, that is why I revisit this book. It's my third time rereading it. Now, another thing I do like about Jim Lee's art is the watercolor flashback scenes. I think the way they use watercolor is uh, great for the flashback scenes. You know, because when you do have a memory, right, you don't think about the details of a person's face and whatnot. It seems very kind of vague, and I think the watercolors do that justice in this book. That's just something I picked up on, and if I'm ever in a position to write a comic book with a flashback scene, I think I'm going to do it in watercolor because I think that gets the point across of this being a memory the best that I've seen before. Another reason why I love this book is I do enjoy the writing. I do have some issues with the writing too, but I will talk a little bit about where I think the writing shines the most. And I think it shines the most with one-liners from the character. I think Jeff Loeb really understands just the entire cast of characters in Batman and the Rogues Gallery. And there's just so many amazing one-liners by these characters, and really just love that. And it was very entertaining to read. Um, like I said, I do think Jeff Loeb really does understand the character of Batman and his supporting cast of characters as well. Next thing I really love is the twist and turns. You know, there are quite a bit of twists and turns in this detective story that I thought were good. Um, Next thing I love is the relationship between Batman and Catwoman. I think that really shines here. And I read a interview with Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb, and how Jim Lee, when he got the script for the final couple pages, he sent it back to Jeff Loeb and said, "You have to redo this. This is at its core a love story between Batman and Catwoman." And I would agree to a certain extent. I think it towards the middle of the book, it kind of takes a back seat, which is fine. But I do think that's also where this book really shines for me is that relationship. And another thing that evokes a feeling for me when I read this book is the fact that it feels like a blockbuster to me. Like this is a Batman blockbuster. It has a wide range of characters and an amazing cast. In the writing, there's so many great one-liners, and that's why I really love it. I think it's. I'll revisit it. It's just a fun, almost kind of like turn off your brain and just read blockbuster Batman book, accompanied by amazing artwork by Jim Lee. So I think that, in my mind, kind of wraps up the good of this book. Um, I will say there are some things I don't love, however. Um, Firstly, I don't think it's a very good detective story. It definitely feels a little rushed towards the end, and like we get like 2 pages worth of just dialogue from a specific character, and I won't spoil who that character is. Um, but this character just monologues about like everything, and it's like, okay, that seems a little lazy, to be honest. And so that's where it doesn't really shine for me. Is the fact that it doesn't read like a very good detective story for Batman. Um, so I don't know. I can't. I don't read this story hoping to like dive deep into the mystery and whatnot. I just whatever. Um, Next thing I was not crazy about is the character of Hush. I I just find him a little boring, to be honest. I think it's just kind of blah. You know, I don't mind, and I think this is where some people have issues with the book. I don't mind the fact that Tommy Elliott's spoilers for who Hush is. Sorry. Um, I don't mind the fact that he's like a childhood friend of Bruce. I think that's actually pretty cool. But I think when it came out, people were like, well, why haven't we heard of this character before? Like, this feels a little phoned in almost. And I think as as time has gone on, right, Tommy Elliot or Thomas Elliot just kind of becomes part of the lore of Batman, and that disconnect between like, oh, why is this character just getting introduced now? It doesn't feel as powerful, right? So yeah, I just don't think Hush is that good of a character, to be honest. So to wrap this up, I will say if you're a Batman fan and you have not read this book, I would recommend you check it out. Like I said, I really love this book. I think it's a great Batman story. I don't think that it's too deep, however. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, at least for myself. I sometimes just want to relax and read a book and have fun and not think too much about it. And here is a perfect example of that. And like I said many times before, it's accompanied by Jim Lee's artwork, and that is some of my favorite artwork in comics. So I definitely recommend this book. Now, if I had to rate it on a scale between 1 to 10, I think I'd give it a 8.5. Yeah, I really enjoy this book. Now, obviously, that's more of a personal scale. I would be curious to know what you guys would rate it on a scale between 1 and 10. Um, but I think this book's great. I really do, and I encourage everyone to check it out. I think it's a great place to start reading the character of Batman. Um, it's not super lore heavy. It gets you introduced to a wide range of characters. Um, and yeah, it's great. So I think that's going to do it for today's episode of Comics Corner. Um, Before we go, I do have a Discord. I always fail to mention that. So feel free to join that. Link in the description below. And yeah, I think that's going to do it. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching this episode of Comics Corner. We will catch you in the next one.